history and trauma and how it affects us um, in our community. You guys, I'm not great at history, but there are some key events that happen over the course of our lifetime that impact the way we collectively work together and impact the way our families and individual tribes work together and thrive and grow in our communities. Um, some key events in the 1870s, post slavery, um, the Northern migration in the 1900s, employment changes in the 1940s, some civil rights changes in the 1960s, wage distribution and education changes in the 70s. Um, and all of those things kind of impacted how different tribes and organizations thrived and created wealth gaps. Um, and now we're here in the 21st century, and there's still some economic stability problems and also economic wealth gaps, depending on your tribe, depending on race or ethnicity, depending on the different impacts of trauma that you guys may have experienced over the course of your lifetime. Can we get a few people to define what generational trauma is to them? And I don't know if I can toggle back and forth and see who's here. Let me try that really quick. No, I can't. So if anybody just wants to start, what is your definition of trauma?
Um, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in my opinion, trauma is like something that has imprinted in your life, and you can't really get rid of it.
Okay.
Well, that's just my definition or my opinion.
Okay. Does anybody else have a definition that they want to share?
I was just gonna piggyback off of that, and I feel like it's basically the same thing. Um, I to me, trauma is harm, but basically a scar where it's just like it's a level of harm that's so embedded that even if you can potentially heal from it, then there's still that scar that's left over, and yeah, it's there and can't really get rid of it.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes something reminds you of that trauma, and it's hard to get over.
Right. Right.
That's right. It scratches at that same wound over and over again.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I'm Claire.
Hi, Claire. And actually, let me pause and go back. Do we have new attendees this week, Daniel?
We do. We have Claire. We have, let's see, I think Amber was with us last week. We have Jasmine White. And I think that's it. So would you two like to introduce yourself?
Okay, I am Claire Owens Menace. I am related to Amber Owens, and I am delighted that she invited me to this because I find it rather interesting. I haven't, since I retired a few years ago, I haven't been very engaged in the community, but as soon as I started getting into some of the community things, COVID came along. So that kind of put brakes on things, but I was interested in that, see what's going on in the community. I've lived in Park Hill for over 30 years. I spent most of that time working, raising kids. So now I'm retired. I'm recovering from a surgery right now, so I know my voice isn't very strong. But I'm interested, very interested to get back into things.
Okay.
Welcome.
Awesome. Nice to meet you and welcome.
Thank you.
Jasmine.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasmine White. I am a communications major at MSU, and I am active in Park Hill for the last 3 years, I believe. I started interning and volunteering at Hope Communities, the Gardens of Hope Communities, on Dahlia and Thrill, I believe. My daughters are also Girl Scouts within Park Hill as well, and I want to learn more so I can share my knowledge.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I'm not going to make everybody reintroduce themselves, but I am Simone. I am a project coordinator with Metro Deep. We are co-facilitating the next 4 sessions, including this one with Joanne. Joanne, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Joanne McLean, and I'm with Financial Health Institute. And we provide a range of training programs on things obviously related to financial health, but that includes all of the assets, all of the resources that come into and go out of our lives. And so happy to be working together with Simone and her folks about making this, the first 5 classes in this series, because we thought this is a great foundation for anything that you guys are going to do with helping people build their financial health, stabilize economic security, and build wealth. So glad you're all here.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And we have another member of our team, Benzo Jimerson. He is out today, sending love and condolences to his family. He lost his grandmother recently, and her funeral today.
I'm sorry to hear about that.
All right, so let's hop back in. And please excuse me, guys. I am not an in front of the group person. So I'm gonna forget my words and stumble. But this is good practice for me. All right, so generational trauma, just as you guys have all defined, none of your answers are wrong. They kind of build into each other. It's an event or set of events that happen to a group of people who share a specific identity. That identity could be based on nationality, tribal affiliation, ethnicity, race, or religious affiliation. And the events surrounding historical trauma often result in disruption of traditional ways of life, culture, and identity. One way that disrupts some people is in the wealth gap. And those are the things that we are going to continue to talk about over the course of these modules. If you guys can all get a pen and paper down, or actually we can, there's a few of us today, so let's just go through and see how many of us have been affected by certain traumas. To start, who has been, we'll go down the list and you just say whether it's happened to you, whether you've witnessed it, learned about it, or you're not sure. If you have experienced a natural disaster, whether that's a flood, a tornado, any kind of natural disaster, witnessed it, or had a family member that dealt with it, can you let us know, please?
I was in Hurricane Katrina when all that went down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it happened to you. Has anybody had it happen to someone that they know? Or I'm pretty sure everyone has heard about a natural disaster happening before, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Has anyone been in a fire or explosion, or had it happen to someone close to them?
for me to happen to someone close to. I used to volunteer with the fire department where I used to live 13 years, so I variety of times saw during and after and took part in helping people out.
Okay. This is one that's more common: a car accident, boat accident, train accident. Me personally, I've been in many car accidents, none recently. Since I transitioned to an SUV, that's the way to go, if you ask me. um, has anyone experienced a transportation accident?
Yep. To me, witnessed it, seen it, loved ones have been in it. Yes.
I've also been in a car accident. No fun.
Right, right. And I mean, even with us each experiencing it firsthand, I'm sure our experiences were completely different, from, the beginning to the end of that process. Has anyone had a serious accident at work or at home, maybe fell on ice or
Oh yeah.
had something happen to you?
I had an accident with my car trying to avoid a street sweeping ticket.
Oh no.
I
Yeah.
tried to make a U-turn in the street, pull up into a driveway, got caught on the fence. It was nighttime, and I did not see the handle of the fence. I ended up tearing down a sign, wrecking a car that was parked below that sign, hitting a car across the street as I exited that driveway, and coming back around and getting a street sweeping ticket anyway.
Oh
Oh,
no.
so that's self-made.
That's rough. Yeah.
Yes.
I witnessed my or actually she was my manager. When I was this was crazy, and to this day it still really bothers me. I was working at FedEx at the airport, and so they have like the whole, um, I guess, warehouse, and there's a bunch of gears, and there's like the belt that goes through, and so my supervisor, she has like long hair, and it was a Saturday morning. We were all kind of just trying to get out there, and so like we heard someone screaming, and because it's so busy and we're all talking and kind of doing our own thing, sometimes you just figure it's people just talking and being loud or whatever. But
Yeah.
then it was like a certain pitch that she hit, and it's like I don't know how to describe it, but there's a certain pitch that like people hit when like they're screaming and like their life is like in danger, that like you hear it and you're like, oh no, that like something's wrong. And so people start screaming like, stop the belt, stop this belt. And so we ran over, and like I'm not gonna lie, like I thought she was dead, because like everyone, like after the belt stopped, it was just so quiet, and that was the worst thing. And then my other coworker, she was really awesome person, Renee. She was just like praying, and I was just like, oh my god, like I don't know. And so they pulled her out, but yeah, her hair got caught in the belt, and luckily it was just like where she was at, there was no way for her to stop it or to like like hit any of the buttons. So because someone else had stopped it, like they saved her life, because if she had been by herself or something, she would have been done for. And our boss had sent us home for the day. He's just like, I'm not even in a, like I can't even really process this. He's like, everyone just go home, so it was really scary.
Yeah, that would be. And something that sticks with you for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, it's definitely a much different experience experiencing it. I can only imagine how you felt in that moment and how it still affects you, and the different sounds that might, trigger a response from that experience.
Yeah.
Do we have anybody that has served in the military or been in a war zone before?
No, not here.
And then anybody that has experienced a life-threatening illness or injury. My grandmother also recently passed from cancer. Definitely something that we did not know was a factor in our family, as great aunt passed 2 months prior to her with a different type of cancer. So it hasn't happened to me, but I've definitely witnessed it. And in the past few months, encourage myself to learn more about it so that I can be more equipped to try and prevent it in my future and the future of my children.
Wow.
That's good. Yeah.
So, just to go deeper into the effects of trauma, um, each of us has experienced some sort of trauma in our lives at a different stage in our lives, whether that trauma occurs in our adolescence or in our adulthood. We have different responses, different reactions, and different outcomes in our life based on those traumas. We might not know, what those different outcomes are because we're living our own lives, and it's not really a manual that tells us where we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be. Um, but all of these different types of trauma affect us mentally and affect our mental health individually. Um, and there's no way to determine how the trauma that affects us affects our families, and the people that we work with and the people that are around us. Um, with that being said, an important piece to get out of this module, the next 4 sessions, is just being able to empathize with what other people have gone through or experienced, and you guys being ambassadors in the community and being the people that are trusted to go out into the community and share resources and share this information that you guys are learning. I feel like the most important thing to get out of the next, I believe, 15 weeks or 14 weeks, is the ability to empathize and be able to put yourself in a room full of people who don't have the same experiences as you, and be able to talk to them and get on their level and resonate with them in order for them to receive the information that you're trying to give. And hopefully that's what I'm doing here with you all. Hopefully I can resonate with you and empathize with you so that I can deliver this information in a way that resonates with you and makes you feel comfortable about sharing it as well. All right, so we'll do the same exercise as it pertains to wealth building. I know that in my life, a lot of these things I didn't even, start thinking about until the later years of high school, early college. And when it comes to the wealth gap and wealth building in general, these are things that some families start as early as elementary school. I know a few families, since I've gotten into education, that their kids are learning about stocks and bonds and have bank accounts in elementary school. So with that being said, I'm sure that we can all see how, a student learning in elementary school how to open a bank account or manage a stock account or even invest, can have a much higher advantage over someone like me who did not learn about any of these things until I hit high school, and some of them not even until I hit college. How many of us had an open and active bank account by middle school? High school? And I can't see you guys, so I don't know if you guys are waving, but please come off the mute, engage.
I didn't have a bank account, but I have a 14-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they both have active bank accounts. So kind of trying to teach them about money early so we don't have to go through any sort of issues later.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Good for you. Yeah.
I had one in middle school.
Okay.
Did your parents help you open it? And how'd you get into that?
Yeah. It was really all my parents, and I didn't really even, I think, to be honest, like fully understand the concept until like high school. So.
Yeah, I don't think most of us understand it at that age.
Right. What about learning about stocks and investments? I did not learn about stocks and investments until towards the end of my first year in college. Like I had heard about them, I knew they were a thing, but I knew nothing about it, had never experienced anything in that realm whatsoever until college.
My dad had me investing in stocks in high school. So I had some of my own money and some investments, but I had no idea what I was doing and I wasn't really that interested.
Do you feel the same now?
No, I love this stuff now.
Maybe it
I
just
s-
planted a seed.
Maybe,
Right.
maybe.
I started learning in late high school. I actually got kind of irritated because my grandfather had some books that he said he was gonna like give me for investing, and he never did. So I just went to the library and started reading a whole bunch about investing and just did it myself.
Cool. Wow.
That takes a lot. Even in college, it was such a foreign language to me. When I took that first class, I was completely uninterested, completely confused. Not to mention that I think I took the classes in the wrong order. And nobody told me that it wasn't the best experience for me, but once I got it, I've been investing ever since and have also been trying to educate my children in the last 6 months on how they can invest and what stocks are. It definitely creates a residual income if you do it right
Yep.
and if you know what you're doing.
Yep.
Hmm.
Jasmine, do you want to share when you learned about stocks or investments?
I learned about stocks and investments when I was a junior or senior in high school, but that's because I took a economics class or accounting class, I believe. So I learned that away, but that class made me really not interested in learning anything else about it. So I don't think I got the full gist as a child, and I never really looked into it since then. I want to, but I just haven't. I don't have the knowledge to understand it. But I did have a bank account in high school, if that counts for anything. So
Yes, it definitely. There's no right and wrong answers here. It's definitely to show the difference in how we all are brought up and just encourage that ability to empathize with the way we were brought up and the things that we learned and at what stage in our lives we learned them. That to your point that you were completely uninterested, that definitely is a reason why it's important for us to be able to empathize with people and understand other people's backgrounds, because if we approach other people in the community and we don't have the right approach, then it can definitely leave a bad taste in their mouths, and then we can't move forward with that individual without doing more work.
Hmm.
Gigi, how old or what grade were you in when you made your first investment into a stock or mutual fund or anything?
Oh, I didn't start investing until 30s. Yeah. I mean, I knew about them because my father, when he had passed away, had left all of his money to my uncle. And so my uncle would call us. And I remember having a conversation at 16, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm investing in Victoria's Secret." Like, okay.
That's a safe investment.
Sure, right. like good to know. But out of my own personal money, that's mine. It wasn't until yeah, maybe late 20s, 30s.
That's about the same for me. In college, it definitely also left a bad taste in my mouth. So it took me a few years after I graduated to even entertain um, investing in my own stocks and mutual funds because I simply just didn't know what I was doing. And I'm the type of person, I don't gamble with my money. Like I grew up homeless for the most part. We were in and out of shelters and hotels, and gambling with my money is not something I want to do. My friends get a kick out of going to Central City, and I like to hang out too. But when that first $5 that I lose, I'm like, yeah, I'm good on that. So
Me too. I think that's something
Not
else.
for you.
yeah, so it's like
Yeah.
investing is definitely, there's risk involved, and I have to kind of come out of my shell a little bit when it comes to investing in stocks and think more for the long term than the short term, because I'm definitely not a person that likes to gamble with my money.
Yeah, I wish I had learned more about stocks. I got into it probably when I was in my 40s through my job, but I didn't learn enough about it to build it up.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's hard because, yeah, even if you do take classes, it doesn't mean, like people know about it in the same way that, yeah, you learn about, other skills that you build up, right? Yeah.
right.
Right.
Without having someone to kind of like be there as a
Not for
mentor kind of
you.
role, it's a hard one. It's a hard one to learn.
Yes. So at some
Right.
point during life, it's all about survival and where you put your money at. For investment doesn't really come into play when it comes to day-to-day survival.
Mm-hmm.
Right. How many of you that were afraid to invest or didn't learn about stocks and investments was approached by a financial advisor at some point in your journey that scared you even more? None of you? Am I the only one?
Oh yeah.
There's people that you see about on the internet or I watch on TV that scare me when they're talking about investing. I think, oh, okay, no, that's not me. That's not me. Yeah, the way they talk about it. There's
Yeah.
difficult people out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say scare, like what do you mean exactly?
So I'll tell you about my experience. I think shortly after I had taken my first class on stocks and bonds, I was approached by a financial advisor, and you take the meeting and they break down your income with you and they do all that. But then they tell you, okay, well, if you invest, I'm going to take a certain percentage of whatever you invest, and the rest, we'll see what happens, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and you said that scared you, just like someone taking it, or just the.
Right.
Yeah, I understand what. Oh, so okay, I understand what you mean, and that's why, like me personally, I never wanted to really like. I'm a finance major now, but before I was taking finance, like I would rather do all the education and learning myself, even as difficult as it was, just because like I wasn't really scared, but I definitely did not trust, like you said, like the financial advisors, quote unquote, and I even had an issue with a black person that reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm a financial advisor, and I'm like, hey, I'm finance student, and I thought that maybe we could talk shop, but really it was just basically like a triangle scheme, or Ponzi scheme, or and I'm just like, yeah, thank you, pyramid. I'm just like, geez, like, come on, like it's your own community. But yeah, that's a different discussion.
Absolutely.
I'm hesitant about it because there are people who make their living off of investing other people's money. And I think
Yes.
that's what stops me is that you have to learn how to trust people, and it's hard to with your hard-earned money.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Can you clarify, is there something wrong with all financial advisors or just
No,
certain
I don't think.
agencies?
I think there might be something wrong with certain agencies, but I don't think there's anything wrong with financial advisors at all. I think that the problem is when you're approaching people who are not well informed, it creates that scare. So both of the situations that I believe that was Kareem, and I can't make out the other ways. I can't see your faces. Both of the instances that the other two participants mentioned are experiences that I also had that caused that scare. Um, you know, the fact that they make their living off of investing my money and um, just not knowing, whether it's a pyramid scheme or the inner workings of investing.
Right.
Right.
And if you have, yeah, thinking back to the trauma, if you've got a history of having people hurt you and therefore it's harder to trust, it
Right.
just amplifies that tremendously.
Right.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify and say the same thing. Like, I definitely think there are great financial advisors, but just some of them, and that's the problem, is that you don't know, because it's so complex. Is like, is this person scamming you, or do they have good intentions? And even if they have good intentions, like, you can still, I mean, there's risk, So yeah.
Yeah, it's a risk.
There is a
Definitely
risk.
a risk. But you have to slowly let go of that trust and try to find out other people's experiences with it and find someone who can really give you good advice.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Correct. That's what we did when we shopped for a financial advisement agency. I mean, we went to Thrivent, we went to Northwestern. I mean, you go and you book an appointment with a financial advisor, and then they break down how they're going to spend your money. The problem is that's a lot of jargon. Luckily, I was with my husband who
Right.
understood it all.
Yeah.
But
There's a lot of jargon. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a better way to put it, is there's just a lot of jargon. And if you don't know, all it is jargon to you. And
Yeah.
it creates that, well, for me at least, it created that fight or flight mentality. And it's like, nah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Backing it up right now.
And a lot of it means that, like, as a finance major, I was taking an investment class last semester, and it was funny because, like you said, it's this jargon and it's not complicated. Like, the concept is not complicated, but you see all these numbers, and there were multiple times where me and my classmates were like, okay, what is this, like, x to the h I p, and he's like, oh, that just means this, and we're like, oh, okay. I mean, can you, at that point, it's like, just give me a dictionary to
Right.
translate it, like,
Yeah.
but you just look at it and you're like, what is this?
Sure. Well, some people that get into investments get into the super complicated stuff like that, right? And this way, some of the really high-powered investors, they have a background in astrophysics because that kind of calculus is useful in determining those really high-powered, like you make this tiny little decision through a computer and it could be $1 million routine. Yeah. And if that's what you see, or somebody starts talking to you about that kind of stuff, then you're like, why would any of us want to get involved?
Right. And I think the important piece of that is, in my situations where I spoke to financial advisors, if they had taken the time to better understand who they were talking to, someone who knew nothing about money, who hardly even knew myself at that time, has gone through a significant amount of trauma growing up as an adolescent, just shaping that conversation a little bit differently and coming to my level to where I could understand, as opposed to trying to get me to rise to their level. those conversations could have went completely different.
Yeah, that.
And that's what we're trying to do here. Just understanding people before we have these conversations, because it's very easy to scare someone away or
Very easy.
put someone in a place where they don't want to learn more because they don't know. And the unknown is like the biggest fear of people, even though change is the one thing that remains constant. Change and the unknown is also the one thing that keeps people from doing the things that they need to do to be more successful or to thrive in today's world.
Hmm. Yeah, so it can feel so much easier to just withdraw and back off and stick with what you know, even if what you know isn't what you really want in your life. Yeah.
Right. So two more. Lived in a family home or bought a home yourself? I have never lived in a family home, and I am in the process of getting myself to buy my family a home within the next year.
Yay.
Yay.
Investment.
Yes. I don't think we've heard from Kevin, but I might be mistaken.
Well, I chimed in on the stock investments, Simone.
Oh yeah, you
but,
did. I remember your
um,
voice.
But yeah, we live in a home now, and we've been fortunate to. Both my wife and I grew up in homes, and it's a very relevant question to wealth building because as those appreciate, and you move on, or it's definitely helped us along the way.
I think what I've learned is that you make that initial investment, it's for self security, but you can build on that. And that's something that over the years I've failed to do, personally speaking, because I spent so much time, just like I was saying, survival, making sure all the bills were paid, making sure the house was paid, but not moving into that next higher up realm of home ownership, maybe buying a rental, which I at one time had the money to do, but was afraid of the investment and because of the time it would take. Because dealing with renters is a hard thing, but it's wealth building.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big barrier to jump over. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I am thankfully tomorrow I'll actually be closing on my first home, so I'm really excited
Congratulations.
Yay!
about that.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Definitely
that is
congratulations.
great. So I'm
Yeah.
really, looking forward to that and knowing that home ownership is kind of the first step to wealth building. Um, it's a good thing.
Hmm.
Um,
It
Yes,
is.
absolutely. I'm excited for you. Please
I'm
invite me over
well,
so
excited
I can
too.
eat all your food in your new home.
more than welcome.
You will see a lot of ramen noodles in your first year.
Don't
Yeah,
remind
that is
me of
worth
my
it.
college life.
Yeah,
Funny.
but know that
Yeah.
that goal is a bigger home, a better home, whatever you always wanted in a home. Reach for that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Reach
And
for that. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and some people have had such traumatic experiences, they don't want to reach. They don't have the motivation or the self
Huh. Thank.
self-awareness, maybe for lack of better words, to reach for more than what they have or for more than what they've already experienced. I know I am the oldest of six in my family, and between myself and my brothers and sisters, we just all had different experiences growing up. As the oldest, I feel like I understood what my mom was going through and the struggle a little bit more, and appreciated that, with 6 kids, she did not give us up. She did what she had to do, and regardless of whether we had to sleep in a hotel or a shelter, we always had a roof over our head. And it motivated me to, learn more and be more. Whereas some of my siblings, the trauma affected them in a way where they feel like they are a victim to this world. So it's harder to put those new thoughts into their heads, and it's harder to create a space for them to learn and grow and reach.
Right.
Mm, yeah.
And be
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. And that kind of trauma, in the sense of a loss of control, or seeing your parent having a loss of control when you're 3 years old, 5 years old, say, can be a whole world of difference than if you're 12 or 16 or 18. So yeah, the age at which somebody goes through a traumatic experience can have a huge difference on how they process it later in life as well. And you're right that the amount of risk that they're willing to take, the fear that occurs when they think about making a change, all of that can be so much more difficult for the littler kids when they grow up.
Right.
Yeah.
And last but not least, I literally just learned that this was something that's important. I obtained my first life insurance policy at the age of 28. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. And
A lot of wealth
know,
to be had from
it sucks, but my epiphany on getting life insurance was the rate that African Americans are being killed here in America. I am a firm believer that if more of us had life insurance policies, less of us would get killed in the streets as if we were animals, because our deaths would directly impact those who invest in life insurance. Our deaths would directly impact the life insurance policies of the future and the rates, and they would directly impact more than just our individual families.
That's crazy because actually, I was just having a conversation with someone else the other day, and I agree. My only worry is that, unfortunately, we live in America, and America has proven time and time again that they will find ways to circumvent when we circumvent the racist systems. And I'm just worried that, they might start figure out ways to bump up rates on, African Americans, if, we do that. But I'm for it, it's any way to sort of kind of like you said, protect ourselves, even if it's not necessarily, like a physical shield, but in different ways, then definitely.
Absolutely. Is anybody familiar with whether they had a life insurance policy in middle school or high school?
I could say my mother took out a life insurance policy on me when I was a baby. Did it for my sister too. And the reason's not so much you would ordinarily think of. Because I think it's interesting, Simone and Kareem, what you brought up, the idea of different ways of looking at life insurance, or insurance in general, right? My mom took out a whole life plan on each of us and paid just like a little bit of money in for a few years and then let it sit. And then when I turned 18, she cashed it out and gave me the money and said, "This is for college."
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good investment for your children and your grandchildren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Invest in their future, their education. If they don't, and not everybody wants to go to college, but invest in something positive.
Yeah, start
Right.
you out in whatever you want to do at 18. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
And
insurance we can
that's
look at the
definitely
same
something.
way. Yeah. Sorry.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, just we look at insurance the same way as we look at investing. Yeah.
Right.
You could also look at insurance as it's security.
Yes.
You're not necessarily going to make money, but yeah, you can protect what you've got, whether it's for you or for your family. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, as we learn and we come into new generations, now my kids have life insurance, and even though that's not something that we had growing up, it's something that they'll have, and I'll be able to, you know, say when they turn 18, hey, here's some money for college, or you know, whatever the case may be. It just puts them in a better starting position than I was. So I've I've already changed the generational dynamic of my family by obtaining life insurance, not only for myself but also for my kids.
Mm-hmm. Good for you.
I didn't get life insurance until I was 26. I'm 31 right now, and I upheld it for a good 3 years, and then I wasn't able to afford to pay for that, and it kind of gave me, like, I felt accomplished getting the life insurance. I felt like I had a plan. My children had a future. You know, getting my beneficiaries, I felt very proud of myself. But then when I couldn't afford it, then I had to let it go. And then it's like, now it's like, I don't have a safety net. I don't have a plan for my kids based on, unfortunately, my employment status right now, you know?
Right.
So it, you know, I know what I need to do. I know what I want to do as far as life insurance is concerned, but life throws so many different curveballs that, you know, when it does happen, it's like weighing your options, and, you know, life insurance is the most promising um thing you can do for your children, but then it sucks when you don't, when you can't do it, and then it's like the guilt trip, and then it's like I'm lacking, it's not enough, and then it's a whole mind trip you have to go through.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you guys mind
But
if I
you will be.
do you mind if I chime in here a little bit? I don't know. I was going to ask Daniel or maybe Joanne, or is there going to be a segment where we discuss insurance in detail?
It's a really good question.
Kevin, there will be a segment, but it's going to be on the business side of insurance, not on personal insurance.
Okay.
Might be covered just a tad. I don't think it's going to be too much, if at all, in the personal finance piece of it. But definitely on the business side.
Okay. It may be something we want to try to figure out how to add, because I generally think of insurance as a completely different thing from an investment, and I treat the two completely differently. And but we can. I don't want to dive down into those details, but I think there's very specific ideas, like for your children. It might be better to get, like, there's different types of insurance, like the universal policies tend to be more expensive. But
Mm-hmm.
Jasmine, you might be able to pick up a term life policy that is really not for you as much as it is about taking care of your kids, right? So if something were to happen
Yes.
for you, for very little amounts of money, you'd be able to provide them for, you know, something that is a lump sum payment that would help take care of them.
Right. Yeah.
And to me, that it's the insurance is not for you as much as it is for them down the road.
Right.
If you want to invest for their college, I think that's where you start investing in the stock market, and you're going to get a way better return most likely than you would
Yeah.
in the insurance policies. But that's,
Right.
I'm sure that's stuff that Joanne talks a lot about on the in Financial Health Institute. But
We'll talk a little bit about it. Yeah, yeah. If look into a 529 account. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys with kids, My kids have both graduated from college finally. But yeah, we did 529 accounts when they became available. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you're right, Kevin. Yeah, the different ways of looking at it. And I think everybody's in a different situation, different place. But all these things relate in my mind, right?
Hmm.
That kind of, as Simone's putting it out there, that these are all wealth building activities. So yeah, if you get yourself a term life account, maybe you're not building wealth, but if something happens to you, you're going to preserve wealth for your family.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
That was well
usually the
said.
idea. I mean, if you think of a car insurance policy, right? We all insure our cars. And it's
Yeah.
also that if we get in a car accident, we can still have a car, right?
Right.
It's all about protecting that investment. Um, so it's a different, insurance is really more about protecting, and investing is more about growing wealth. Kind of a
Mhm.
different way of thinking about it. But
Yeah, but they go
yeah,
together.
yep, they definitely have to go together as part of an overall plan.
Hmm.
But
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Um, and definitely, Daniel, if it's possible, let's discuss outside of this conversation, if that's something we can add. Um, is that something that, excuse me, you all would be interested in learning more about? Because even if
Yeah.
we can't add it, maybe we can send you out a resource so that you can get the information that you need.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
would love that information. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
So Metro Deep is Metro Denver Economic Equity Project. We have developed what we call the Becoming One curriculum. It's a tribe-based curriculum that encourages the coming together of families or tribes in order to create more economic stability. We are currently piloting this curriculum in order to ensure that it works, and we are asking for a family tribe and a friend tribe to join us next weekend, the 28th, 29th, and 30th, I believe, at the Native Hotel. All inclusive, everything will be paid for. We are looking for tribes of preferably 4, because each tribe will get 2 rooms, but up to 6 people. And what we'll be doing is basically just going through the curriculum that we've developed, specifically chapter 1 and 2 focus on history and trauma. And it's 8 chapters of necessary information and necessary tools and techniques in order to create a more economically stable tribe. In addition to that, Joanne and the Financial Health Institute does offer online courses. A course that they have pertaining to what we discussed today is recognizing and working with economic trauma and abuse. Joanne, do you want to talk a little bit more about that course?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. This is one we have where we look, we do a little groundwork of explaining trauma, especially adverse childhood experiences and such, in order to give a basis for looking at the effects that trauma, especially earlier in life, but the effects that trauma has on your economic situation. And then we look at it the other way around too. So like, how can your economics, how can money be traumatizing? And there are ways money definitely traumatizes people, including, we talk about financial abuse, of, you know, people that are intentionally financially either restricting or damaging another person's financial or economic situation, whether it's in domestic violence or elder abuse or stealing your kids' credit rating, that sort of thing. How to identify and what to do with it. So if you're interested in like a deeper dive into trauma and economics, more than happy to get anybody in. The way to do that with them, send me Yeah, email me is the best way because I'll need your name and your email. I'm happy to get you in on this or pretty much any of the other courses we've got. If you take a look at that.
Awesome. And that is all the time we have for today. If you guys are interested at all in joining us for the Becoming One curriculum or getting information on the online course that the Financial Health Institute offers, please feel free to send us an email. You guys should have our emails in the calendar invite, but I will also send over a blurb for Daniel to share with you all so that you can have that. And I will follow up with you, Kevin, on the back end so we can, and Daniel, so we can discuss information on the life insurance.
That sounds great, everyone. Thank you all for coming. I want to just remind you all after the session, I'll be sending an email with the session survey, and it's actually the exact same link. But I'll send in another email just as a reminder. This same link it's every single session for every single week. So now that you have it, that's what you can use to come in at 5:30 on Wednesdays. Other than that, if you have any additional questions or anything else, please don't hesitate to contact me directly.
Thank you, guys.
Daniel.
I'll see you next week.
Thanks. Bye, folks.
Bye.